Hello, Pewter people. Scott Reynolds here with another Pewter Pulse. The Bucs were the first team in the NFL to make their cuts and trim their roster down to 53 players. Bucs general manager Jason Light, assistant general manager John Spytek, and head coach Todd Bowles knew exactly what they were looking for in terms of their roster composition. And Tampa Bay's roster, well, it was down to 53 by Monday evening, well before the 4 o'clock p.m. deadline on Tuesday. You have some questions about why this guy over that guy on the Bucs 53-man roster, and I've got some answers for you. But first, your reminder to hit the like button, give us a thumbs up, and also leave a comment. We love reading the comments, and doing those two things helps us with the YouTube algorithm and helps our videos get in front of more awesome Bucs fans like you. Okay, so let's talk about some of the hot button roster decisions the Bucs have made. And let's start with wide receiver Cody Thompson, who had a great camp, was very consistent playmaker in the preseason. The Bucs hope to get him back on their practice squad. Did Thompson do enough to make the team? Yes, if Tampa Bay could have kept 54 players. It's important to remember that the final 6 or so roster spots, and we're talking about the guys who are theoretically 53, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48 on the roster, those are the guys that are on the team for special teams. I'm talking about guys like cornerback Josh Hayes, outside linebacker Marquise Watts, defensive backs Tavier Thomas and Christian Izien, tight end Ko Keith, and inside linebacker J.J. Russell. These guys were essentially competing with players like Thompson to be on the roster, even though they play different positions and none of them are wide receivers. When it came to the receiver position, the Bucs liked the upside, potential, and explosiveness of undrafted rookie free agent Cameron Johnson a little bit better. Johnson is someone that Pewter Report has talked about since dating back to the rookie minicamp. And Johnson has a suddenness about him and the ability to create instant separation that no other Bucs receiver has. He has some Antonio Brown traits that Tampa Bay hasn't had at the receiver position since, well, AB was on the roster in 2021. So if Thompson were to make the roster as a 6th wide receiver, the question would have to be asked, what are the chances he would even see the field? Is Liam Cohen going to take Mike Evans or Chris Godwin or Jalen McMillan off the field and put Thompson on? Thompson doesn't have Trey Palmer's speed or Johnson's quickness or agility. Thompson is 28, and he's been in the league on practice squads for years. Nobody's going to be beating down the door for him, and that's why the Bucs feel like they can sign Thompson to their practice squad instead. When it comes to keeping 4 tight ends, Liam Cohen told me in camp that he actually likes the Bucs tight ends, maybe more than he even suspected when he took over the job, and he's going to be running more 12 personnel, which is a 2 tight end set, more than Sean McVay ran it in Los Angeles. McVay ran 12 personnel about 5% of the time last year, opting for 3 receiver sets or 11 personnel about 95% of the time. While Dave Canales, last year's offensive coordinator, ran 12 personnel about 20% of the time. So look for Cohen to split the difference and deploy 2 tight end sets about 12% of the time. He loves Cade Otton. He likes Payne Durham's development and the speed that Devin Colt brings to the table. As for Keith, well, he's the only offensive player on kickoff coverage. That should show you how good of a special teams tackler he is. Let's finish up on offense with the discussion about offensive lineman Brandon Walton. It feels like Walton's pass protection has regressed, but his run blocking has improved. He brings great positional flexibility with the ability to play either left or right tackle and either guard spot. He's offensive lineman number 9 on the depth chart, so don't fret about him too much. He's a better athlete than Luke Haggard, who I think outperformed him, but Haggard can't play left tackle. He's just a right tackle and a guard, and Walton does have some NFL game experience that Haggard doesn't have, so therefore he's got a little bit more trust from the coaches than a younger player like Haggard has. At outside linebacker, the Bucs seem destined to keep both Jose Ramirez and Marquise Watts as outside linebackers 5 and 6. Both will factor in on special teams, especially Watts. And remember, when Bucs assistant general manager John Spytek was on a recent appearance of the Pewter Report podcast, he said, It doesn't make any sense to let any good young pass rusher leave the building. Teams usually regret doing that, and that's why Watts and Ramirez both make the team because they're worth investing in, and they can play on special teams as well. At inside linebacker, J.J. Russell has bided his time on the practice squad for a few years and shined in limited opportunity when called up to the active roster last year. Remember that Panthers game? He had 7 tackles and a sack of Bryce Young. He also had another solid preseason, and he plays well in special teams, and he knows the Todd Bowles defense. Young linebackers like Vi Jones and Antonio Greer Jr., they might be back on the practice squad and could follow a similar developmental path that Russell has been on over the last couple of years. So those are a couple of younger linebackers that once they know the system, they might be in future consideration to be on the 53. Finally, let's talk about cornerback Keenan Isaac. We told you in a Pewter Insider video for our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel members last Friday that Isaac was probably not going to make the team, even before the preseason finale, and that came true. He was a he was a Pro Football Focus darling in the preseason with a 90.2 coverage grade. But Isaac doesn't tackle well and doesn't have the kind of toughness that Josh Hayes brings to the defense or special teams. Isaac had a run defense grade of 44.1 in the preseason for you PFF true believers out there. Hayes is just a better special teams player. And Spytech said on a recent appearance on the Pewter Report podcast that they really value tackling from the cornerback position. And so that's why Hayes over Isaac. Spytech also said this is about finding the right 53 players, not necessarily the best 53. This is not necessarily about collecting talent. It's about finding the right guys, the right fit for this year's football team. So hopefully this video has given you some insight into the Bucs decision-making process and answered some of your questions about the roster cuts. Well, there's no question that you're going to find great video content on Pewter Report TV. That's our YouTube channel. For more Pewter Pulse videos, Pewter Report podcasts, and other great content, make sure that you subscribe to Pewter Report TV. It's free. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Pewter Report, and visit pewterreport.com for all of your Bucs news and game coverage all season long. And I'll be back soon with a new Pewter Pulse.